bone shaker base was a wooden bicycle that you kick along with your feet. Yeah, right over there. It didn't pedal, but that's beside the point. This is the remodel of a previous model when they did it in '89. This is the '96 version, and this is internal combustion. But look at the lightweightness of it. You know, nobody knew what an automobile was supposed to look like, so they all had their own design. But to have a power supply that could propel you and your passenger or passengers and keep the weight down so you didn't have so much power, because you can imagine the size engines, a steam boiler and so forth that you have to propel something of weight. So they're trying to keep the weight down as much as they can and keep going with it. But you know, this must have reins, because you can't sit in that seat and reach out and steer the handlebar. There's just no way.
Levi Fletcher, North Hollis, 1905.
Notice the front wheel drive. Modern idea. This is another steamer.
Steering gear for motor wagon for Fletcher in 1889-96.
Notice the steering is from the center tiller. Wood frame, wooden axles.
Mark Libby, South Berwick, 1890.
Photo of a patent model on how to steer a horse's carriage. This is on display at the Maine State Museum. It is made of German silver, 19.5 inches long and 10.5 inches high. It's a beautiful piece.
This is the patent granted to Libby in 1891 for a steering mechanism.
He had several patents on automobiles and steering and so forth, but he had nothing on gas, steam, or electric. It was always on steering, gearing, but not on the power supply.
Patent applied November 1904, granted 1907 for a 4-screw log hauler for PV.
So most of us are in the room are old enough to have had a sled with runners. And if you slide down this big hill a few times, as runners get hot, you park it in the snow, you go to pick it up and it's frozen down because the runners got hot. Well, he put steam into those cylinders to keep it from freezing in. But this didn't have wheels. It screwed itself forward and backwards. There's a log hauler. Flexed in the middle to get a steering.
Was he the PV that invented the PV?
His father invented the PV. And does everybody know what a PV is? It's a cat dog where you roll a log, hook into it and roll it. It's a leverage tool to roll a log in the logging industry. It had a hook on it and also had a sharp point in the bottom of it.
Willard Twombly, Portland, 1895.
This motorcycle cooked ether to make steam, because ether boils at half the temperature of water. If there is a leak in the system near the flame, the history of the moon would be changed, because it would go bang real loud.
C.S. Fairfield, Portland, 1896.
He used a kerosene engine. The engine was built by Lawson of New York. Most automobiles in this book were for private use. This was built for commercial venture for summer excursion parties in and around Portland, a 24-passenger bus.
A.O. Lombard, Waterville, automobile number 2, 1900.
Before the log hauler, Lombard experimented building 2 automobiles, one vehicle rebuilt into the second. The wheels and tires from number 1 are in the Lee Historical Society in Lee, Maine. So there's a lot of, as you can see up on the table up here to showcase it, the pieces that are still out there of these vehicles and the people that made them are still out there being found.
Alvin Lombard, Waterville, 1903.
Most everyone is familiar with the Lombard log hauler. Notice the front wheels for moving in the summertime. This is the third vehicle built in 1903. Third vehicle built by Lombard.
And that's the patent for the second vehicle.
I mean, this thing is the size of a train. Because there's a few around like that. There's one in the Owl's Head Transportation Museum up in, near Rockland, and they run it occasionally. This is one of the very early versions.
It must have been loud now.
Not that one, that's steam. That whispered along. This one made some noise.
Gas Lombard, 1909.
Experimental gas Lombard, spring of 1909. 4 cylinders with a 9-inch bore and a 10-inch stroke. Notice the muffler underneath. The whiskey barrel and house radiators for coolant, and a 5-gallon kerosene tank for fuel. Notice the driver's position. So this engine was in backwards, so the drive shaft came forward into that great big thing in the middle that changed it to to chain drive back to the track. Now the tracks, Lombard invented the first track successful flag land vehicle in the United States. A lot of people give him credit as inventing it. It was the first successful, not the invention itself.
H.H. Flynn's motorhome built by Lombard, 1910.
This had a 50 horsepower Brennan engine. The next slide, you want to keep this in mind and look at this. This is, I refer to her with her clothes on and the other one without them. But it's just a motorhome back in 1909, 1912. Because it only went probably 5 to 7 miles an hour. But he had a dog show when he traveled all over New England. In 1912, he went to work for Lynn, a Lombard, after he built this. And then they had a falling out in 1912, and he went to New Jersey, ended up in Morris, New York, and what he did, he built flagland trucks out there that looked similar to the Lombard, and they both died the same year, 1934. He was killed in an airplane crash.
The Lombard tricycle built in 1915.
Notice the stack right above the engine, which was probably used to fire a steam Lombard in the shop. Right up there. The exhaust to get the smoke from the steamer out of the garage. Notice also in the rear, the 2 steam boilers for log haulers right there. He was building internal combustion, and he had 2 boilers waiting to replace a bad one, or if somebody wanted another steam one. They made 87 steamers.
Lombard's full track vehicle, 1922.
Which he only made 1 of. And I looked at these pictures of these for many years with the exhaust stack side by side. It just didn't jive. It had them front to back, not side to side. Well, I finally found the article that described it. It has 2 4-cylinder engines side by side. When you turn the steering wheel, it accelerated the outside engine and decreased the speed of the inside, because this is before we had brakes on the mechanisms to steer the thing, so you had to have a different system. So each track ran off a different engine, and that's how we got the steering. It didn't prove very well. It was sold to the Great Northern Lumber Company.
Lombard with a Snow King rotary plow. Roller.
1928. Now, you wouldn't run that up Main Street in Lewiston. You wouldn't have any windows or doors, maybe some buildings left. But from breaking up, going up to a Rooster County like that, you could make a hole. Because back then, they plowed one time. When the snowstorm ended, they went out. They don't go out every 5 minutes like we do today. So they had to move everything that was in the way, from snow drifts to snowfall. This would do it. You could run a single side or double. And it also had wings.